Start recording. So we are in the student orientation. I'm going to present ACEND standards by Dr. Williams. So you guys, this is your assistant dean, Dr. Williams. I am going to share screen. To do that. And if you like, it's there and this works. Okay. So.
Well, good. Well, today, hopefully you'll be able to see it. And I have a, for the preceptors as well as the interns, forgive me if I walk around. It's hard for me to stay still. But I am going to try to stay on point with what we're going to talk about today. And our main goal today is to talk about our accreditation standards of the dietetic internship. So not only you as interns, but preceptors, you both get a robust understanding of what is the reason you sign yourself up to, what are the reasons we're doing what we're doing. And it's all because we have to follow a prescriptive plan, as you're aware, which is ACEND. So these, we're going over the accreditation standards in order for our program, right? First, the self-study of the ACEND 22 standards. These are the new standards that came out. The old standards were that of 2017. In this, you will see there are 8 different standards. And each of the standards are met with elements. And so in the total, we have 8 standards with 26 different elements. And these standards and elements talk about the whole prescriptive plan of the dietetic internship process. And if we look at those 8 different elements, those 8 different standards and the elements within them, we'll see we have standard 1 is program characteristics and resources. Right, and we're going to go over what they mean by program characteristics and resources and the 7 elements that are found within standard 1. Standard 2, we have the program mission, goals, objectives, as well as program evaluation improvements. Each year, each class, not only do we have to tell about how this program and we have the resources, how it falls within the university, we also have to talk about the mission, the goals, and the objectives of the program, how it aligns with the university, and how we evaluate you as well as our preceptors with the education that you're getting, right? And we'll go into those 3 different standards. Standard 3 is curriculum and learning activities. We went over how you have to go into the system to see our different sites from clinical side to food service side, right, to other sites, and how you have to manage these activities that you must have. And we're going to have to dictate those activities, as well as you're going to have to show proof that you gained those activities in those areas, as well as the hours. We're going to go over that. Student learning assessment and curriculum improvements. Again, we're all about assessing. We have to assess what we do each year. What are our positives? What are our minuses? What are some areas for improvement? As well as we have to discuss in standard 5, the faculty and preceptors. They have to have certain requirements of our faculty, of our staff, as well as the preceptors, and their involvement in the process. And we'll talk about those 4 different elements. We also have to talk about our supervised practice sites. Where are you doing your supervised practice? Up under what conditions and what areas? We discussed that, as well as information for prospective students. You've heard about our program. We have to make sure we send out, disseminate information about our program to make sure it's clear, it's concise, and it's up to date. And last but not least, we have to talk about the policies and the procedures of all enrolled students. And so within the next hour, hopefully a little less, maybe we're going to go in detail over these 8 different standards and those 26 elements. And if you have any questions, you can. The whole point of this is that you can have a robust understanding of what we're doing to better understand what you're doing. And we'll probably do another close the loop at the end of the year, right? When you collect all your evidence, and this is the last final week, we're there and say, okay, as far as curriculum and learning activities, do we have a check mark? Have we exceeded our expectations in all our learning activities in our curriculum, in all of our rotations? Where are we? Have we exceeded our number of hours? Have we exceeded what we need to do? And so this is the roadmap of understanding why we're doing what we need to do, as I would say the Holy Grail, right? So let's get into standard 1 and our different 7 different elements. The main thing you will see in each one of these slides, I've highlighted some main areas, and so we don't have to read over each and every one of them, but some of them we will do that. But standard 1, program characteristics and resources. We need to require the quality assurance of oversight of other agencies, organizational structures, the financial stability, sufficient resources, and the awarding of degrees or verification statements, program length, and program management. That's what encompasses this. So we have 7 elements that must be achieved, or we must talk about those 7 elements. Element 1.1 of Standard 1, it says the program must be offered at a college or university, which we're a college or university, but also you see other programs could be at a healthcare facility, at a state agency, or what we call a consortium, which is an agreement between a university and somewhere else. You have a lot of standalone programs, right, that you can see, but ours is offered within a college and that of the university. And we have to answer that, talk about our alignment with our college, who's our board of directors, who's our president, all the way down to the students. Standard 1.2 is programs must be integrated within the administrative structure, right? We have to have a structured organization that we have where we see we're not only just having a program, but we're a recognized program within the administration and structure. Standard element 1.3, it says the program must demonstrate that it has the administrative, clerical, and other staff, technical, financial support, and learning resources, physical facilities that support the services needed to accomplish its mission and goals, right? We need to make sure we have everything there. We have to prove that we have things there. Standard 1 and 1.4, it says it must be under 2 conditions, and you're at an integral part at this part, because after December 31st, 2023, these conditions must be met. We're at a great time because how many people have a master's degree? 1, right? After this year, this is the last cohort, as you all are aware, in order to be into the program, you must be what? Have not only your verification statement, but have earned at least a master's degree and or admitted with a verification statement or in process. So what we're saying by the graduates of everyone after December 31st, 2023, you must have a master's program or working on a master's program. Or by the time you get your verification statement from the dietetic internship, you have to have completed a master's. So kudos for you at the right time, right? Standard 1, program characteristics and resources. Of course, it talks about what do we have. The program must have 1 designated program director, right, in which we have that. It talks about the responsibilities of the program director as well as the staff. Standard 1, element 1.6 talks about that of program must establish its length and provide the rationale for the program-based length, right? Talking about how many number of hours that you must have. The program must be planned so that interns complete 1,000 hours of supervised practice experience with a minimum of 700 hours in professional work setting, and a maximum 300 hours can be alternate supervised experience, such as simulation, case studies, or role play. You will see a part of our curriculum, we have some of that a part of it, and you can see not only that, we have to follow a sheet of saying, where are these 700 hours? How do we collect those? We went over those. That's why we use this to tell you. That's why you have to be on top of all your documentation, because it's nothing that we want to, it's just a requirement for our program, right? And it tells about the quality of what you're doing. Standard 1.7 just saying that, to be eligible for Title IX student financial aid, that's if you're on a program that's a freestanding program. We're not a freestanding program. However, if you can see, this is the document that we show within the total number of hours that we have. You can see here where we total the hours, as an example, we're 240, but from our different areas, how many do we have from clinical? You can have various clinical sites. Some of you will have various food service sites. Maybe just 1 community site, but it could be various community sites. The whole point of it is we need to have a total number of hours. What is our minimum number that we have? 700, right? 1,000, right? And so 700 from this or more than 300 that we can have supervised practice sites. And this is how we sit there and say, okay, if we're not supervised practice sites, a maximum of that 300, where is that found? And you can see here it's found in some simulations, we have some case studies, some role playing, and others. And so this is the document that we have for an example of what you have to rectify and quantify your time within the program. Any questions so far? So that completes standard one by saying, do we have the infrastructure in place to support it, right? When we go to standard two, it's all about the program's mission, goals, objectives, program evaluation, improvements, right? And so we're supporting or proving our mission with our supporting goals and objectives, and it simply has three elements. Some of this language is prescriptive in its nature, and we follow that, but we have to show proof. One of them, element 2.1, says the program evaluation plan must be documented, reviewed annually, updated as needed with changes noted, must include the following. We review it yearly. We review it basically just about daily because where you're being placed. If you're not placed or something happens, we have to go in and find another replacement for you. That's why it's imperative that we do as requested and hopefully not as much change. We don't expect too much change because we only have a limited amount of time. But the mission. The program mission must be specific to the program, distinguish it from other programs and the organizations, and be compatible with the mission statement and philosophy of the sponsoring organization. We must be in alignment with the university. We need to have goals. The program needs to have at least 2 goals focused on program outcomes for the graduates that are consistent with the program mission, as well as we have objectives. The objectives must measure the full intent of the mission and the goals used to evaluate the achievement of each goal, right? And so we have what we call our program completion and what we call graduate employment, how they feel about us. And so we're saying the program must develop an objective that states, right, at least 80% of interns complete program requirement within 150% of the program's planned length. I believe for us, our program is a 9-month program, and so half of 9 is 4.5. So 9 plus 4.5, we round off about 13, right? You need to have at least 13 months. Within a year, if anything happens, you must at least 80% of program requirements within a year complete. That means if we have a cohort of 6, you know what 5 out of 6 is? 83%. You know what that means, right? You can't have 0 slip-ups. Our goal is to have 0 slip-ups. We want 100%, right? But understand that if one person doesn't do anything or one person omits something, it could hurt us, and we want to show the best foot forward, right? That's why it's imperative that we have constant contact after you graduate by saying, hey, did you complete the form? Did you pass the test? Can you please speak with me? We want to send you some information. Please answer some of this information. And I'm quite sure Ilana has talked about that, and we're trying to set that foundation now so you can understand the importance of what you represent. As I said the other day, you represent us from now until the end of time. We really are birthing you, right? And so you're ours. And we are yours and you are ours. Graduate employment. We have to have, this is one of the goals. Of the graduates who seek employment, at least 80% are employed in nutrition and dietetics or related field within 12 months of graduation. Right? So after you get your verification statement, we're going to start that time to understand where you are, and we want at least 80% of you employed within the field. Right? Our goal, you're going through all of this, we want you to go within the field. And so we're going to ask you questions with that. As well as we have to have performance goals, where at least 80% of program graduates will take the CRD credentialing exam for the dietitian nutritionist within 12 months of the program. Our goal for you is to not only take the CDR, but to pass the CDR. We want you to do that within 12 months. You have the option of saying your name or not stating your name. We want you to please state your name. No matter what happens, otherwise it's hard for us to understand who is this person, right? Because even though we have 6, someone could use like university's code, and now we could potentially have 10 or use another code. And we don't know because it's unknown. But if you say Richard Williams, Life University, we will make sure and able to find you. And so our goal is at least 80% will take the CDR credentialing exam within the 12 months. Then we said the program's 1-year pass rate. Graduates who pass the registration exam within 1 year of the first attempt on the CDR credentialing exam will be at least 80%. So not only we're saying you would at least take it, everyone will take it. Not only if you take it, but you will also pass it. Not only that, we're going to send out to, once you get that job and you pass the CE credentialing exam and you're happy, you're making money, we're going to ask the employers that you employed, right? The program must develop an objective of employee satisfaction with your preparation. We're going to say, are you prepared? Do they feel as though you're prepared? And hopefully they will say yes, that you are prepared. So these are some questions that we're going to ask to make sure our goals, objectives, and program evaluation improvements are up to date. Element 2.2 talks about the program must evaluate and achieve its goals and objectives based on the program evaluation plan and provide evidence of the following, right? In essence, we have to make sure we meet our target goal, right? And if we have any type of changes, we have to talk about the changes that we have. And with these changes, once we understand the changes must be for good, but hopefully with you, I'm quite sure all 6 will pass, all 6 will take. We don't have to worry about that. So we don't really talk about that too much because we have high expectations, because we go through a huge process to make sure once you're on board that you are successful. I want to let you know how important that you are, that not only you chose us, but we chose you because of your academics, because we believe that you will pass and represent us well. Right? Standard 2, 2.3, the last one within Standard 2, talking about the results of the program evaluation process. We must maintain program strength and address areas of improvements identified throughout this evaluation process. So in essence, this is the example of the evidence that we have to show them. We have to see all of our goals that are aligned, and we have to indicate if we meet the goal, what is needed, right? How did we evaluate it? Who's responsible for it? What's the time frame? And what's the outcome? For example, at least 80% of interns complete the requirements within, 14 months. Within 13 months, right? 13 and a half, 13.5 months. If that doesn't happen, we're going to have to sit there and say why. That's why we ask you, okay, if you can please tell us some information in reference, did you take it or not? Because we'll make sure we want to show some good evidence, right? Or the graduates who seek employment, we're going to ask you first, are you seeking employment? And that we hope that you are. And here we're saying at least 80% of program graduates will take it, and at least 80% will pass. And we're saying at least 80% you will go into the field. So we ask these questions just to show proof to make sure our Standard 2 is complete. Any questions on Standard 2, mission goals? All right, Standard 3, curriculum and learning objectives, right? The core competencies must be the basis of which the program, curriculum, and learning activities must be built on. And there are 3 elements. You know what I mean by those core competencies, right? Those are the 5 different domains that we have within our program. And so we're going to have to go by each and every one of those domains, and we talk about them, and we have to align them, right? And I can show you the document that we use for that. But Standard 3, Element 3.1 says the program's curriculum must be designed to ensure the breadth, depth, and requisite knowledge of skills needed for entry-level practice dietitians must be present. And so we have a document that shows where are you, what are the different standards that we have within those 5 domains, and we have to identify where are they shown within that practice setting. What is the sequence and the logical organization of progression of what's happening, right? As well as we have to demonstrate this experience. And you'll see in element 3.3, we tie all those learning objectives together. And the long story short, this is what we have. We have basically your rotation sites. And we're going to have each and every last one of those CRDNs, those 5 different domains, and how we're being met. You will see that also within Blackboard. It's going to be a very, very busy type of schedule, but we have to show them that every area of our prescriptive plan has been planned out as well as it has been met with the different varying rotations. We also have to show evidence of our populations, those specific populations that we have. Is it a rotation or is it a course? Or is it some type of, how is it met? Was it met in those supervised practice hours? As well as what is the activity that goes along with it? That's why it's so laborious and cumbersome to make sure that you're up to date on everything that you do within these 9 months, because we have to chronicleize as well as talk about it and notate. Right? Standard 4, any questions on Standard 3?
They've had some
intensive training on standard 3 already.
Right, and I knew that was one of the main things that where you are so important to this process, specifically standard 3, because if you don't do the work and if you don't document it, then we can't be rewarded for our great work, nor can you, right? So we want to make sure you document everything in a timely fashion, right? For you can see if you take a week off or a couple of days off, you know how hard it is to try to catch up, right? You have to do everything on purpose. Standard 4, student learning assessment and curriculum improvements. The program must continually assess student achievements required through core competencies, and this is going to go through 3 elements that how we assess, continuously assess. 1, we must show that we have a plan of ongoing assessments for interns' attainment of core competencies of all our 5 different domains. What are we doing from day 1 all the way to our last day? How are we assessing the programs, right? And standard 4.2 says the program must document the data on intern core competencies attainment and collect it, summarize, analyze for the use of curriculum review and improvements. That's why we have, did you meet it? Were you exceeded? Right? We want to have conversations not only with you, but with the preceptors. What is going on? Because we're going to have to document everything that we're doing. Standard 4.3 talks about the form of curriculum review must be routinely use the results of the program evaluation and data from 1 year to the next, or from one cohort to the next. Include input from interns and other stakeholders that are appropriate, right? That's why we ask you questions, and we're serious about asking you questions. And we want your honest and thoughtful feedback when we ask. What are ways for us to improve? What are some things that we overlook? Is this needed? Matter of fact, when we did this first standard overview, some of you were here when I did it for the undergrads. They thought it was needed. Not only that, when I did it for the internship as an exit interview, they said instead of doing it as an exit interview, it's probably beneficial if you do it at the beginning. That's why we're doing it at the beginning, so the students will know what we're really getting into and why it's so important, instead of at the end they're like, but I did that rotation 3 months ago. It would be good if I would know all about this information at the start. So we're going to do it at the start. She's going to make sure you do everything in the middle of the rotations to keep up with everything, and we're going to close the loop at the end. It's going to be continuous assessment, continuous review of everything we're doing. I don't require it, the standards require it. And so these are some of the reasons why. And our whole point is the results and actions to maintain or improve our intern learning environment. That's what we want to do, to make sure we have a great learning environment. And these are the examples of how we make sure the core competencies are met. And we list each one of those standards, each one of those 5 domains, the course or the supervised practice where it's met, and how was it specifically met. And so we do this for both the DPD as well as that of the DI. This is the coordinated program. So we have to show evidence that we met standard 4. Standard 5 talks about the responsibilities of the faculty and that of the preceptors, where the program must have enough qualified faculty and preceptors to provide the depth and breadth of the learning activities required in the curriculum and exposure of a diverse element of practice. And you're going to find out, we go through our depth and breadth of the people that we have before you as the people that's teaching you. We find that within these 4 elements. And element 5.1 talks about the credentialing of the faculty and preceptors are sufficient to ensure implementation of the program's curriculum, right? We want to make sure everyone is not only required a credential, but they've been credentialed for some time, right? Not only that, for 5.2, the requirements of the program faculty within the academic unit, we have to make sure the faculty program within the academic unit are credentialed as well as a certain number of blinks that they have within the field to show that their expertise. And we ensure that both our faculty as well as our preceptors, they all meet that benchmark. Speaking of program preceptors, the education experience needed to provide appropriate guidance and supervised practice. The orientation of the mission, goals, objectives must be shown. That's why we're doing this now, as well as program preceptors must be trained on strategies to recognize, monitor basis of self and others to reduce incidents of microaggression and discrimination. I want you to know if any time you feel as though you've been looked over, you're not treated well, you're not treated with respect, you would inform all parties, right? You inform all parties about that, and we will handle accordingly, right? The last standard in standard 5, talking about the formal evaluation of program faculty and preceptors must routinely occur, where it says the program must have a process for periodic review, which we do, and we review the program faculty, instructors, preceptors must receive feedback and training as needed. So if we missed anything, any boards that are not supported, we want to make sure we come in and support to have a smooth process for not only you, but for the preceptors as well. Questions over standard 5? Faculty or preceptors? We're almost there. We're almost there. Bear with me. We got 2 more standards left, 3 more standards left to talk about, right? Standard 7, supervised practice sites. The program must have policies and procedures to maintain written agreements with institutional organizations and other agencies providing supervised practice experience to meet the competencies. Basically, we must go into our supervised sites before you get here, make sure we plan out everything. This is an agreement between not only Life University, but the supervised practice site to make sure they have everything that's needed, right, and everything that's required for you so we can sign off on that verification statement, right? The program must provide clear, consistent, and accurate information about the program requirements, perspectives to interns, as well as the public at large, right? As well as, I was over standard 6.
No, this is 7.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant, did we have any questions? It was only one thing on supervised practice site for the elements, and so that's very clear cut, right? And standard 7, information for prospective students and the public. Basically, we have to make sure we are a window. And in this window, we must show everything that we provide for you, but for the public as well. The public needs to be aware of everything that we have. So we must make sure the policies and procedures and the practical material related to intern recruitment, admission, must comply with all laws within our state, as well as be available within our student body, right? So 7.1 says program policy, procedures, practice, and written must comply within state and local laws. We make sure that it is, as well as 7.2, all information of prospective interns and the public must provide current, accurate, and must be consistent. Each information source must provide a reference and to where complete program information can be found. That's why we have a page with all our information. That's why you have your program handbook, a preceptor's handbook. We have everything that's a Bible, so to speak, to let you know what's required. And we try to think of everything that's included within that handbook, and that's why it's published. You will find out everything here: accreditation status, including full name, address, phone numbers, website of our programs on our homepage, all the way to talking about guidance about distance education components, such as technology requirements, if applicable, application admissions requirements, to information. We have to show information of all this. Where is this information located? The things that you see from our academic program calendar or schedule, so our graduation program completion requirements, description of the program, mission and goals. We need to make sure everything is visibly and is shown not only to us, but to the preceptors as well as the general public. We try to make, as my old boss would say, put everything in the sunshine so everything is able to see. And if we're missing anything, you let us know, but we try to go through a fine-tooth comb to make sure everything is written. Our last standard is standard 8, policies and procedures for each enrolled student, in which we must have a written policy and procedures that protects the right of students and are consistent with current institutional practices, right? And so in here, we have this thing. This is where you find in your handbook, the programs are required to have policies and procedures for program operation, including intern performance monitoring, right? How do we monitor you? When we talk about the monitoring of yourselves, our remediation or retention, right? If you don't get all of the standard competencies, that's why we have the 2 weeks at the end where you can come back. Supervised practice sites, the documentation that we have, the equitable treatment not only to you, but to the people that you see, right? We must make sure we have that information, as well as insurance, liability, right? Any type of illness. We ask you to do a drug testing, criminal background checks, right? And as far as requirements, supervised practice sites, you see it's a list of things that we have in order for we have to make sure within our policies and procedures documents that is there so you are aware of everything that we have. I put this question in here because not only that, it will be a part of it. I just added this document. You may not be aware, but if you are on Saturday, the 25th, on Monday, February 27th, we're going to have people from ACEND come down and talk to our preceptors, as well as our students. And right now we have a tentative schedule, and we'll get more to that. But notice right there, right? It's a graduate meeting, right? Tour of the resources, as well as that student meeting right there. They want to talk to you. They want to understand, are you aware of what's going on within the department? Are you aware of what's going on when they ask? And we want you to answer, yes, we are aware. We've been fully vetted of the process. We understand the process. We have a better understanding of what's going on. And we know the reasons why we're doing and why we're completing all this process. So this is one of the avenues that we want to ensure to close the loop, that everybody understands, that everybody is aware of what's going on. And with this is one thing that I hope that you will all do, the smiling face, right? The happiness that you have after you've completed this journey, right? This 9-month journey that has already started at the beginning of this week, but yet still it's going to be a worthwhile experience for you. We just ask that you buckle up, do what's required for you to do, so this journey will be just smooth as a baby's body, right? What questions do you have?
Any questions? You're curious about what the accreditation process, what's happening behind the scenes?
Well, it was a lot of information. That's why I wanted you to at least, the homework was to go over it, to read over it. I knew I was going to go over each and every element. And the whole point of going over each and every element to understand how serious we are. But to not only that, for you to understand how hard Ilana has been working behind the scenes. You know, a lot of times you will see her walking around with a smile on her face, but you don't understand when she closed the door how much work has gone into. As soon as you start, we're preparing for the next cohort now, right? And that's how this business is. We're forever preparing. And so that's why if you have any issues, any problems, bring it to the forefront of us. Or you see some places where, you know, the board isn't nailed down as tightly as it should, to let us know so we can provide some additional support. We're here for you, and we want you to know that. And I want to say just publicly, Ilana, thank you for your hours of continuous work in this process. And I know it's not an easy work, and sometimes it's a solitude job, but thank you for being gracious enough to continue to do it. Thank you. Students, I thank you too as well.
Yeah. Thank you too, Dr. Williams.
No problem.
He's my sounding board, that's for sure.
Oh, no, we sound off to each other, trust me.
We have some crying sessions on Wednesday mornings.
Right.
I know they've seen me frazzled, don't worry. Not all of them, the undergrads particularly, but yeah.
And the frazzleness comes from we just have this expectation. When we're saying 80% of our students will graduate, 80% will take the test, 80% will pass, and everybody will think we're the best thing since sliced bread, it comes with some stress levels, right? Because she's doing this for you. I'm telling you. Each and every last one of you, we had to fight for you to get into the door because you had others coming in that wanted to get in as well, right? So please do what you can. I'm so happy for the 6 of you. I know you will do very well. Anything else?
Questions for me? Okay. I'm going to turn the recording off. Hopefully this is usable for the preceptors as well, but they will have their own training, which you guys will also be a part of next week, Friday, and we'll provide lunch. So this will just become a part of one of their checklist items. So before we talk anymore, I'm just going to turn the recording off. If I can figure out how to do that.